What's up, Met fans? Welcome back. Talking Mets and Rob. How's everybody doing? All right, guys. What's up, Met fans? Welcome to Mets Hot Stove Live. I see a lot of people in the chat right now saying what's up. I'll get to you guys in a second. This week is a week where baseball fans should be a little excited because the last month and 10 days, we've had no baseball activity. We had no transactions, no free agents, no trades. It's been so quiet that we have to come up with our own rumors just to get through this offseason without any talks between players and teams. Tomorrow is the first day the owners and the MLBPA will be sitting down and finally negotiating. Major League Baseball is proposing economic proposal to the players. So let's hope that it goes well. Obviously, they'll probably come back with a counter offer, and we'll see what happens. But as I said, and a couple of you guys said as well in the last live stream that we talked about, that it was obvious that sometime in the first 2 weeks of January, we knew they were going to start talking. And it's good to see that it's actually happening because everybody's going to lose money if baseball does not start on time. And I don't think they want to do that. So right now, guys, we are going to go right into more Mets talk. Obviously, 86 Met. You guys probably heard the news. Number's going to get retired. We'll get into that. We will talk about trade proposals, the videos that I've done over the last week or two. We will keep on talking about that and get into more trade proposals, what the Mets need, and so on and so forth. So let me get to the comments, guys. Say what up to everybody. I did see a new member, a new subscriber, a new viewer, Buzz Talk Live. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the family. This is a family here. We all get along. We all have fun. We all talk Mets baseball, and hopefully you keep on sticking around, coming on the live streams, checking out the videos, and everybody say what up to Buzz Talk Live. Buzz Talk, just so you know, if you don't know enough about the channel, I do go to a lot of games on the road and at home. A special perk that no other channel, Mets channel, does on YouTube. Every time I go to a game, road or home, in the fifth inning, I go live and we hang out for that fifth inning. You get the in-game vibes, you get the in-game sounds, hopefully the Mets are scoring runs in that inning. But I like to do that just to get a little bit of interaction with everybody during a game, because that's always fun. And obviously I do go live during games while I'm at home. I do apologize if the Wi-Fi is a little shaky. I'm in a hotel right now because of some business that I'm doing. So if the Wi-Fi is a little shaky, I'm sorry about that, but I got no Ethernet cable at the moment. So let's hope the Wi-Fi hangs on for at least an hour. So Buzz Talk, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you keep on coming along. Karen, John, Transistor, thank you about the fine work. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Nelson, La Potencia. Who else we got here? Of course, Buzz Talk, anytime. All right, guys. So let's go right into it. We all know that we all heard the news yesterday that the Mets are going to retire number 17, Keith Hernandez. Long overdue. He should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, let alone the Mets retired numbers. He should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was one of the best defensive first basemen of all time, and there's really no debating that. He was one of the guys that brought respect back to the Mets when he was traded in 83 to the Mets. And obviously there was a lot we saw about the 86 team. We saw the 30 for 30. There was so many documentaries about that year that Keith Hernandez thought it was basically the end of the world when he got traded from the Cardinals to the Mets, because the Mets were a dumpster fire, as we all know. The good news is that it changed his life. And if you watch on the SNY social media pages, he talked, Gary Cohen talked, a lot of people, Sandy Olson, they all talked. And Keith, said that was the best decision that he didn't make, but it changed his life. And it was obvious, like He's been a part of the Mets family, broadcasting player. So he's been around, and it's nice to see. Just so you guys know, if you don't know the exact date, I have it here. It's July 9th. It's a Saturday against the Marlins. If you guys hang out and go to games with the 7 line, they actually are doing an outing even before they knew about the number getting retired. So that's cool. So the tickets should be going on sale probably in April or May for the 7 line outing. Because they're gonna jack up the prices now, knowing that they broadcasted that number is gonna get retired. So it's gonna be it's a Saturday afternoon game. It's gonna be packed. Hopefully the Mets by that time are doing very well. So it's gonna be a hot ticket. So that's always good. And the other good thing is that with Keith Hernandez, and everybody can, say what they want. People talked about the drugs and the cocaine and him getting, probed by the FBI and all that nonsense. You know what? Everybody was young. They had the world at their fingertips, right? They had money. They were popular in New York. They did stupid. The 80s was basically cocaine, right? So I don't really look at that. That's a personal problem. But he always came every day, played as hard as he can, and went on from there, right? So congratulations to Keith Hernandez. Well deserved. Long overdue. Number 17 will never be worn by a scrub player ever again. Fernando Tatis. I mean, we can go on and on. All these Jing Sung Koo, we all know about him. All these terrible players that wore 17 that finally we know that is going up in the left field area in the outfield. It's going to be a part of greatness, and that's what we like, right? So, talking about that, another number, we had Piazza, we had Kuzman last year. This year it's going to be Keith Hernandez. It seems like with Cohen, they're starting to roll out these numbers. So I see a lot of potential is talking about David Wright, Darryl, Doc. The problem, Gary Carter's another one. Gary Carter should be next. Another long overdue. A lot of people, the reason why I say it's long overdue for Keith Hernandez was because when he got traded here in 83, he was the first big time name that was on that got traded to this team. And, Mookie Wilson was just coming up. SoCal, how you doing? Mookie Wilson was just coming up into the Mets, coming from the minors. They were building a foundation, but they were still a terrible team. Keith Hernandez brought notoriety to the Mets, brought respect. A hard-nosed guy who plays defense and is a leader, and he was a leader. And that's great to see. But with other guys that we can talk about, with numbers retired, Gary Carter should be the next one. David Wright obviously is going to get his number retired as well at some point. Doc and Darryl are kind of iffy. And the only reason why I say that is because obviously Doc and Darryl, they were great Mets, right? But it was very, very short, their tenures. And let's be honest, both of them had more success as a Yankee and actually won championships as a Yankee. And a no-hitter as well with Doc as a Yankee. So, I don't really want to look too much into that part, but Doc and Darryl is still a little iffy to me, even though they were a big part of 86 and why the Mets won the World Series. Even though Doc, started to have his drug issue in 86, so he wasn't the dominant pitcher he was in 85 when he was lights out. But again, I think the next two on the list is going to be Gary Carter and David Wright. David Wright, he basically just retired a couple of years ago. So I think the Mets are probably going to wait, if not next year, in 2024. I think Gary Carter is probably going to be the next one. You probably see that for next season in 2023. So that's great. But, it's nice to see. I'm going to that game. I got season tickets. I got all types of fun stuff. So sorry about the lag in the stream once again, guys. Again, I am at the hotel, so the Wi-Fi probably not great. But I do appreciate you guys sticking with me with this one. Hopefully you like the new layout, with the Talkin Mets and Rob logo, the Mets logo in the background and all that fun stuff. Trying to, shake things up a little bit since, you got to keep it interesting, right, guys? So, Cool Spin, what's up, man? So, let's talk more about this team, the 2022 team. Let's talk about that. So, when it comes to the Mets, obviously, let's hope this lockout ends in like 2 weeks so we can really have some talk about transactions, free agents, all that fun stuff. So I don't have to keep on doing videos on what ifs. I want real facts, real rumors, which is more fun, right? We can all speculate all we want, but until we hear it from baseball writers and teams and players, it's basically all speculation, right? But you know what? It's still fun to speculate what the Mets can still do. And what the Mets did, let me just remove this banner really quick, guys. All right. So, what the Mets really did before the lockout was give Met fans hope that they are not playing games. And the other thing that the Mets are not doing is, or the Mets are doing, is that they are going to have a 3 to 4 year plan to win it all, right? They're going all in over the next 3 to 4 years. And it kind of makes sense because the projections on all of our big time prospects, the Gins, the Allens, Alvarez, those type of players are expected to be up in 2024, 2025. Beatty's probably going to be up. Mauricio, if the Mets don't trade him. Those type of Vientos, these guys are going to be up probably, if not this year, definitely next year. So, what does that tell you? That tells you the Mets in 3 to 4 years, or even 2 to 3 years. I'm going to go 2 to 3 years more. Because in 2 to 3 years, all of their contracts, a lot of the contracts the Mets have signed, the Escobar, the Canas, the Martes, the Scherzers. Marte was 4 years, but every other deal so far was 2 or 3 years. And these are not guys that are like 20, 25 years old. They're either late in their 20s or early 30s. So, what does that mean? That means the Mets have a 2 to 4 year plan, 2 to 3 year plan for the most part. So, a 2 to 3 year plan to win it all. That's what they're going on. Because it's obvious you don't bring in Max Scherzer to worry about 5 years from now, right? They're bringing in Scherzer because, and the contract kind of weighs in with DeGrom's age as well. I think if DeGrom is healthy, he can have 3 dominant Cy Young award winning years left. Not saying he's going to fall apart once he's 35. He'll probably be a very solid pitcher. But let's be honest. Hayden, what's up? You have to think that the Mets have to utilize and finally get everything they need to finally get DeGrom again in the playoffs, because we know what he can do in the playoffs. He showed it in 2015. We know what Scherzer can do. Won a championship with the Nationals. He's a workhorse. He's a bulldog. If we can get these guys in the playoffs, it's going to be very hard to beat us, because not a lot of runs are going to be scored with this rotation. And that's not even including if the Mets get Rodon or Kikuchi or trade for Luis Castillo or trade for Shane Bieber, or sign a Clayton Kershaw, as I did a video yesterday. If you haven't checked that out, check that video out. The Mets are not done with their rotation. Even with the rotation now with Walker, Carrasco, McGill, David Peterson, even with the rotation now, we have probably one of the better rotations in the National League, right? I think the Braves are better than us still with Fried on top of that rotation. But you know what? I always think there's always a hangover after a team wins the World Series. And I think the Braves are going to have a hangover season. The Nationals had it, and I expect the Braves to have it as well. Acuna is probably not going to be back until the middle of the year. Steven, how you doing? So, I do think the Mets have the opportunity to put a stranglehold on this NL East for a couple of years because I don't trust the Phillies. I don't think the Phillies are going to be that good. The Phillies basically made no moves at the moment. The Nationals are going to be terrible. The Marlins are going to be good. The Marlins are always a pain in the ass with the Mets. So I don't think the only team you got to worry about is the Braves and maybe the Phillies. But at the end of the day, the Mets have a stranglehold on this NL East because of their pitching right now. And we project that the offense is going to be better with a 300 hitter in Marte, Escobar, who has power, Kana, who, is a solid ball player. And, of course, with Alonso and McCann and Nimmo, right? And Dominic Smith, Jeff McNeil, depending on if these guys are still going to be around. But the good news is that the Mets are finally flexing their muscles, right? They're spending the money. They're telling you that it's a 2 to 3 year plan at the moment. You have to stop wasting great years of DeGrom. And I think finally the Mets are figuring that out. And it took a new owner to do so and a new GM, right? Epler, Cohen, and Alderson seem like they're on the same page. A 2 to 3 year window, and that's what we got to look at. So I'm going to get to the comments really quick here, guys. I see him roll them in. Let's see. John says, I like Vance a lot. I have a feeling he's going to get moved. I mean, John, it's possible. Like I said, there's only 2 untouchables. Alvarez and Beatty, they're not going anywhere. I think everybody else from 3 all the way to 20 have a chance to be moved in the right deal. If, Vientos could be a stud. But if it can get us back Luis Castillo, obviously more than Vientos, but if it gets us a Luis Castillo or a Jose Ramirez or pick your guy, right? I do think that the Mets are going to try to get Rodon in free agency. I think, put it this way, I think if the Mets strike out and can't sign Rodon, I think they're going to make a trade to get a pretty solid to really, really good starting pitcher. If Mets can't sign Chris Bryant, I think they're going to make a trade for a third baseman. If that's Jose Ramirez, Eugenio Suarez, Matt Chapman, pick the guy you like. I think the Mets are going to go to free agent route because I think they want to hold on to their prospects because you never know what's going to happen by the trade deadline, and the Mets might need that one player that can put us over the top. An injury to a rotation guy, an injury to a position player. You never know. So you want to have that option. So if Vientos has to be in a deal to get back a big bat, a big arm, that's when you do it. You don't give it for somebody who's going to be, in the back end of the rotation or a guy who's going to come off the bench. It doesn't make sense. I mean, Vientos is ranked 6th in the Mets farm or 4th, if I'm not mistaken. So, you have to be smart about it. You have to see what is the need of the Mets. Where is, I've been going over this for a couple of months now. And again, a lot of people are getting on me about Mauricio. But if you really have to think about it, Mauricio is positions that he can play are shrinking by the minute, right? Joe DeMayo, if you check out the video about the top 10 prospects that I did about a month ago, he said that the Mets might actually give him reps in center field. And that's only because he ain't playing shortstop. There's a pretty good chance he's not going to play third base because he's never played third base. Maybe he can play second base, but that it is a transition. It's not easy. And Joe DeMayo said they might give him reps in center field, which, makes sense, but you have Marte there for 4 years now. And, who knows what the Mets are going to do with Brandon Nimmo. If you haven't heard about Brandon Nimmo, he is going to change agents to Scott Boras. So he's a free agent after the 2022 season. So he's looking to get a big payday as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. And again, I think if you have the right player, a big bat, a big arm that you can get, and it requires a prospect or two other than Alvarez and Beatty, you make that trade. Because again, you're in a 2 to 3 year plan where you have to win with DeGrom and Scherzer. Because after DeGrom and Scherzer, after 3 years, the Mets don't win a championship, Scherzer's out of here. Now DeGrom's 35, 36 years old. He might not be the same dominant starter that we seen 3 years ago. So there's not much time here. There's 2 to 3 years. So you got to stop messing around. And listen, I will take a world championship and worry about my prospects that are coming up in 25 and 26. And I'll worry about it then. I don't hear teams like the Cubs who won a World Series in 2016. Do you think they're crying about Gleyber Torres? No. Listen, I will rather have a World Series championship and have a bad year in 2025 if the Mets win in 2022. That's the way I feel. It's not like the Mets are winning every other year. So I think it's pretty simple. You do everything you can to win in the next 2 to 3 years. Not saying to give Alvarez, not saying to give Beatty. But I think everybody else in this top 10 to top 20, other than Alvarez and Beatty, is expendable for the right deal. Not just for anybody, but for the right deal. If it can put us over the top, you do it. Teams do this every time at the deadline. And I'm not saying doing it in the offseason. I'm talking about it in the trade deadline. And I'll get to all of your questions in a little bit. But I want to throw this out there. If the Mets at the deadline see a need that can put this team over the top to get us into the playoffs, win the division, get us deep in the playoffs, you want to find out what you can get, right? And if it requires giving up a Mauricio or a Vientos, as John said, or again, an Allen, or pick your guy, that's when you have to make that move. Because it's a shame, because let's be honest, guys, in our top 10 right now, right? We can run off the players. We don't have to talk about all the players, but in the top 10, the people who don't want to trade any of their prospects to get anybody, when people talk about, we got to keep our prospects, our farm system is depleted. Fine. But let's be honest. Out of the top 10, how many players are going to be a mainstay in this roster, in the majors, who is going to be very good to excellent? Could it be Alvarez? Of course. That's why they're called prospects, right? That's why they're not called guarantees. They're prospects. We've seen this over and over again. We all remember the Lessons Millages, right? We all remember the Carlos Gomez, right? Who didn't do nothing for the Mets, and then they trade him, right? Lessons Millage was basically oil in a pan. Looked good for a few games, and that was it, right? I look at it as this. If you can win now, and the player that you need requires a Mauricio or two prospects, you do it. Because I will take a championship and worry about my prospects that I traded. Because at the end of the day, you're probably trading those prospects to a Cleveland, to a Kansas City, to a team that's probably not going to win anytime soon. Listen, when the Mets traded for Edwin Diaz and traded Kalanick to Seattle, right? Everybody was upset but if the Mets would not took all that money, or at least not take all of Cano's money and took Cano and Diaz and still gave up Kalanick, everybody went crazy. But let's be honest. The Seattle Mariners haven't made the playoffs in 20 years? If Kalanick becomes a superstar, we're not going to have to worry about him, because what do we play Seattle every 4 years? We might play him in a World Series, but let's be honest. Is Seattle going to make the World Series anytime soon? I see it as this. I didn't like the trade at the time, but I don't think it, granted, Kalenic could have been our center fielder, but how good is he going to be? We don't know. At the moment, if Diaz can figure it out, maybe he can be a really good closer for the next 10 years, right? Cano is probably a lost cause, but I see it as this. A minor league player, a prospect is just that, a prospect. And the Mets have shown you they're having a 2 to 3 year plan to win a World Series. And that's what you have to focus on. Because too many times, all of us, we all have done it. We focus on 2025 when Mauricio is supposed to come up or Alvarez in 2024. We wait for that moment, and what happens? They might not be that good. David Wright, Jose Reyes, these guys were, top 10 in all of baseball in the, coming up as prospects. Alvarez is one of them. Beatty is one of them. I think they're in the top 20, top 25 in all of MLB. So we expect them to be good, but we keep on expecting these guys to be good when we basically look Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil, Dominic Smith, right? Jacob deGrom, Tyler McGill, right? These guys are on the roster now that came from my minor league system, right? So benefit off of that by signing the guys like we have, the Martes, to solidify this roster. Trading for Carrasco and Lindor, put them around the core. That's what the Mets are trying to do now. How many times are you going to wait for prospects, right? You get 2 or 3. You get Alonso that comes up who is a bona fide power hitter, who is, living up to all the hype, right? Jacob deGrom, the same thing. Put guys around him, around this core to win. You got these guys up, and that's what the Mets need to do, and I think they're going to do it. Okay, let me not rant anymore and go to the other questions. Let's see. Steven, Rob, who do you think is going to be Buck Showalter and our new bench coach? I thought it was going to be Bobby Valentine when I heard the news, but he seemed like he's going to be a special advisor. Honestly, I don't know at this point. It seems like Buck is going to make the decision, but everybody he's trying to get, they're not getting permission to get them. So I honestly, at this point, I have no clue. I mean, that's probably an answer that's probably like, you could have gave me a better one, but I don't have one. And I'm not going to give you some nonsense name because I honestly don't know anymore. I did a video about candidates, but it doesn't seem like it's Beltran. Bobby V is going to be a special advisor. Or maybe, if they strike out on all the guys that they're trying to get as candidates, maybe they'll elect Bobby V. He might accept it. We'll see. La Potencia, if Freeman goes to LA, we'll run away with the AL East. On the NL East, maybe. It's a possibility. I wouldn't see why, but I think Freeman's going to stay with the Braves. I think that would be crazy if he leaves. Yeah, again, La Potencia, Frankie Monta. Again, we're talking about, like I went on a 10-minute rant just now about it, right? Getting Frankie Montas, the Oakland A's ace, it's going to cost you a Mauricio, a Vientos, and probably a McNeil. It's the ace of the staff. Just because he's not going to be our ace doesn't mean Oakland's not going to want that much. Maybe we can get Chapman in that deal as well. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe. But I think it's more realistic if the Mets have to make a type of trade to get Matt Chapman and probably a Sean Manaea, which might lower the prospects a little bit. Instead of Mauricio and Vientos, it might be Mauricio and Ginn, Mauricio and pick your guy, right, in the top 10. Maybe I don't think they're going to give Allen away, but maybe this Alex Ramirez, a guy like that. I don't know. Let's see, Merlin Full, how you doing? I'm trying, John. I'm trying. I wasn't, with the deal that Baez got, if the Mets would have made that deal, I would not complain. it's not a bad signing. It wouldn't be a bad signing on the Mets part. But I think the Mets wanted to get rid of the toxic environment. And I think Baez brought not like a toxic environment per se, but I think he just changed Lindor's attitude in a bad way. And I just think if you were going to bring Baez in, I don't know how well that would have been. And, Baez is a head case. And if he's not performing, he gets way too selfish and way too into his head. And look when the Mets first got him. He already tried to start a fight with the Marlins for no reason. I think that the Mets wanted to get rid of that toxic culture. That's the reason why, they weren't overly mad about Syndergaard. I don't think, they basically let Baez just, they didn't even offer him a contract. So it shows that the Mets are not looking for guys who cause trouble in the clubhouse. And I think he was a bad influence on Lindor. And it showed with the thumbs down, even though it was more Lindor than Baez. Baez kind of edged it on and kept it going. Lindor wasn't, he was saying it to the media that he don't like the booze, but the thumbs down did not start until Lindor got his buddy Baez here. And I think that was a big problem. And the one thing you don't want to do is turn on your fans because you will hear it. And let's be honest, Lindor's here for the next 10 years. There was a pretty good chance that Baez wasn't going to be here, so he didn't have to deal with the ramifications of the thumbs down. If Lindor is betting $350 in April, he's going to get a standing ovation. He's going to get cheered. On opening day, I'm very curious. Are the Mets fans going to cheer Francisco Lindor, or they're going to, you're going to hear cheers and boos, or mostly boos? I'm the one, I will boo you if I think you deserve it. On opening day, I try to cheer everybody because, the excitement of opening day. But I think the only person I ever booed on opening day was the Mets head trainer many years ago, Ray Ramirez. We all remember him. And everybody blamed him for all the Mets injuries. That was the only guy I used to boo. But during games, bad errors, terrible at-bats, I will boo you. That's who I am. That's right. I like it, Lopez. I like it. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, when it comes to Baez, the reason why I wasn't so upset about losing Baez was because there's other options that I think can be just as productive with less of a, I guess, I would say more of a, less of a, type A personality, basically. Somebody who's not always in the forefront and needs to cause issues for no reason. Bryant doesn't cause issues. He's a good clubhouse guy, and he performs on the field, right? I want a guy that just performs, goes out there and plays, is getting along with their guys. A lot of people talk about, the 86 Mets didn't really like each other. They respected each other, but they didn't like each other. Nowadays, you have to have a team that likes each other and that has like a family environment because it doesn't work. Like the Padres have all the talent in the world, but you had two of their best players, Machado and Tatis, going face to face, arguing with each other, and they didn't even make the playoffs. With all that talent, with all the moves, the money they spent, the trades they made, they didn't even make the playoffs. And I just think nowadays, in this, era, so to speak, I think the environment is a big, big deal to get teams together. And they play better that way. When there's less drama, there's less on their mind. They can flow freely and play their game. And I think that's what the Mets are trying to do. Yeah, we gave Pete Crow Armstrong, like I said, that was a Brody Van Wagenen draft pick, and apparently Sandy Alderson did not like him. I saw Pete Crow Armstrong last spring training. when I was there in February. I even have pictures of him when he was at bat, and Mauricio for that matter. Pete Armstrong, he looked really good. But again, he wasn't Sandy Alderson's guy. He was Brody's guy. And you know what? Maybe Pete Armstrong is not going to be nothing for the Cubs. We just have to wait and see. But, I don't think it's that much of a big deal. It's just that the Mets didn't sign Baez. So it's kind of like, oops. Yeah, I agree, Nelson. I think Epler's doing a great job this year. He's not a guy that does not like to spend money. Epler spent money in Los Angeles when he was with the Angels. He spent a lot of money. He brought Otani here. He spent a lot of money on Trout. He brought Rendon in. I mean, I you just have to think. Epler's going to spend money as long as he has the owner's approval. He's going to keep spending it, and I don't see why not. Dylan, how you doing? Do you think there is any chance lockout can end after the first meeting tomorrow? I doubt it. You know, any smart business person or union is not going to take an offer from a company, or in this case, the owners, and say, okay, we agree, let's go. They're not going to do that. They're going to probably come back with a counter offer. It'd be nice if they started on Monday so they can negotiate through the week. But let bygones be bygones in that part, in that situation. But they'll probably come back with a counter offer. It's probably going to go on probably close into the end of January, and that's probably when they're going to figure it out. I've said it a couple of times already. I think by the end of January or the first week, like right before pitches and catches show up in February, I think that's when, between that time, they're going to come up with a deal. Because there's no way owners and players are going to allow themselves to start losing money already and put in a bad taste in fans' mouth. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it's too much damage that can be done to the game. Yeah, exactly. Prospects are deceptive. There's so many. I mean, just think, Gleyber Torres is supposed to be one of the best. He was basically top 5 in Major League Baseball prospects list when the Cubs traded him to the Yankees for Chapman. But again, the Cubs made that move because they were missing one thing. They needed a closer in 2016. They got Chapman. And granted, Chapman wasn't great in the playoffs or in the World Series for that matter, but he did enough to help the Cubs win a World Series. And there is no Cubs fan, there is no Chicago Cub that is going to give back the World Series because they lost Gleyber Torres. I take a championship before I want a prospect back if it got me a world championship, if it got me the player that we needed. It's just that simple. John, what would you give for Frankie Montas? I think I said it a couple of minutes ago, but let me state it again if whoever's just tuning in. So again, we're Frankie Montas. He is the ace of the A's staff, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he has 2 or 3 years left on his rookie deal. I think it's 2, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to cost you. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's got to be a Mauricio, a Vientos, and Jeff McNeil. It gives him a controllable major league player in McNeil who can play second, third, outfield, whatever you want him to do. And he's still under team control for, I think, 3 more years for a very reasonable amount of money. And then you got Mauricio and Vientos, who basically can come up this year and play for a rookie salary, right? At $550,000 or whatever it is right now. That's what I think you would have to give up. And it's a lot, but putting Frankie Montas with DeGrom and Scherzer, I mean, that's scary 1, 2, 3, right? Nobody will want to face them in the division series in a 5-game series. So it's going to take a lot. But again, the Mets in this 2 to 3 year plan, the win now in 2 to 3 years, I think if that's what the A's want, I give it up. Mauricio is basically someone who I think I've been saying is expendable. Vientos, I wouldn't want to give up because I think he can be a productive player in the majors and maybe as a DH. But if it gets you Frankie Montas, you can't say no. It's just that simple. Cano would be productive for us. I take him over McNeil. Uh, Not on the field. I mean, granted, Cano's a better second baseman than McNeil. I think he would work well with Lindor Cano, but I don't think the Mets are thinking Cano to play second base every day. I think the Mets are going to give Cano a chance during spring training, DH him because I think the DH is going to come to the National League. But I do think that Cano, as the DH in spring training, let's see how he does because I think Cano can still hit. I'm not expecting Cano to hit 300, but I think he can still hit 260, 270, and probably hit 15 home runs. It's not a lot, but I still think he can be productive for this team. Buzz, what's your thoughts about Nimmo going with Boris? It's a money grab. It is. CAA, which was Nimmo's agency before Boris, it seemed like they were trying to work out a deal with Nimmo, and it just never worked out, I guess, with money wise or years. Boris has been, it seems like Epler has a good relationship with Boris. So I don't think it's too much of a big deal for the Mets. I just think Nimmo thinks that Boris can get him a better deal. I think it's just that simple. But I'm not worried. If it was the Wilpons and he changed to Boris, then I would worry. I would feel like he's probably going to go to free agency. But I think with Epler, and it seems like Epler and Boris has a good relationship, so I think it's okay. Eric Chavez, a great hire. I don't know. He was a good ball player. I'm not really going crazy with hitting coaches because I think it's more mental than physical when it comes to a hitting coach. I think they got to, they keep the mental part of the players, of the offense or the players, mentally sound. But, I don't know. It's fine. I was more excited that they took him from the Yankees. That's always fun. Trading for Brantley, I don't think so. He's up there in age. I don't think it's going to be smart for the Mets to bring in a 32, 33-year-old Brantley at this point. I mean, if it's like if it's something that you might do at a deadline, go off a bit of an injury, maybe, but not right now. Oh, John, of course. Like I said, Lindor deserved getting booed last year. Even before the thumbs down, he was performing terribly. But I honestly think Lindor is going to be more comfortable in this New York setting. I think he's going to be more comfortable. And I'm not going to be surprised if Lindor comes out of the gates raking and playing well. I just feel that because I think the pressure seems like it's on him. But I think our minds right now are on. I think there's more pressure on DeGrom to stay healthy. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Alonso. And I think those two guys are going to have a tremendous amount of pressure. Even though Lindor is the $340 million man, I think Alonso and DeGrom has a lot of pressure on them because there is a lot of, people expect the Mets to win 95 games. I mean, it's just that simple. That's a lot of pressure. So we'll see. But I think Lindor is going to be pretty damn good. Oh, Hayden, happy birthday. You know what? I saw that on Instagram and I forgot to message you. I'm sorry about that. Happy birthday. Well, hopefully number 20 gets retired in about 15 to 20 years when you're 40 and I'm very old. But yeah, happy birthday, brother. 20, one more year, you can have a drink with me. It's great. Let's see. Rob, would you rather the Mets obtain guys via trade or free agency? Personally, I would want them to go the free agency route only because it's just money. So if you get guys in free agency, that means you keep your prospects. Again, I'm not the one who, it's the end all be all to keep our prospects. I think if there's a deal out there to have, you trade prospects. But I think personally, free agency is the first part of it. And I think the second part is if you can't get the guys you want in free agency, I think the Mets will have to make a trade to fill that void. I think it's a possibility. I think the Mets, see, it's kind of difficult because, Sandy Alderson did not like JD Davis. It was obvious. Sandy Alderson, Jeff McNeil's a Sandy Alderson guy, obviously, and Dominic Smith as well. But Epler running the show, I'm not even sure. But if I have to say, if I think the Mets would trade two of the three, if it brings back what they need. But if they have to keep two, I think it would be JD Davis and Dominic Smith. I think McNeil's gone. I think that's a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of what the Mets can get with it in a package with McNeil and maybe a prospect or two to get a big time pitcher or a big time third baseman. But I think McNeil is probably the most likely to be gone. I was thinking about that. I honestly don't know. He's not old. I think, what is Nimmo? Nimmo like 28? I would think maybe a 5-year deal is probably fair. Money-wise, 90 million, 85. I don't think Nimmo's going to get 100 million. I mean, that would be insane. I mean, he's good, but he's not that good. I think he's more valuable to the Mets than another team. So I guess you put more value on that. I would say 5 years, 85. Let me try to do the math real quick. I'm not very good with the math, but let's see. 85 divided by 5. So it's about 17 million a year. That's not too bad. I think that's reasonable. I think anywhere from 15 to 17 is a good deal. I wouldn't go more than that, though. I think 5 years, 85 is probably decent. I think it's fair. Kaiser, how you doing? Will the new manager... Oh, let me put that up. Would the new manager have the power to sit Lindor if he continues to bat 230? Yeah, I think so. You don't hire Buck Showalter to... If you guys listen to WFAN and Sal Carter at overnight, he calls the managers nowadays data applicators. Basically, they look at numbers and the analytics and do what the analytics say. I think Buck Showalter will be a combination of both. I think it'd be 50-50. He'll always look at the numbers, but if you don't like what the numbers say, even though they tell him the numbers say, okay, sit Lindor or play Lindor, and Lindor's 2 for 20 over his last 3 games or 4 games, I think he'll sit him and give him a break. I think Buck Showalter is going to have control over the lineup. I think the analytics team is going to give him the optimal lineup, so to speak, based on analytics against that pitcher that day. But I think Buck's ultimately going to have the final call, and I think he will. Buck Showalter is a leader. The Mets lack the leader in the clubhouse with the players and as manager and coaches. They had no leader. When things were rolling out of control, nobody stepped up and put an end to the nonsense, and that was the problem. Buck Showalter will put the end to the nonsense. Yeah, I saw a little bit about the Zips projections, but they had a couple of people. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had like Drew Smith over like a 4 ERA, who was injured, is coming back. That's another piece to the bullpen as well. Yeah, they're hoping for a bounce. I think Lindor's going to have a bounce back year. McNeil, I think he's going to be fine, but I don't think he's going to be a Met. So, Betances can go back to the Yankees, honestly. My favorite Met, La Betances, Scherzer, Cano, and DeGrom. Oof. I'm not going to call Scherzer my favorite Met, honestly, because he's just got here and he's still my arch nemesis with the Nationals, but he's a Met now. DeGrom's my guy, but again, I tell you right now, guys, if the Mets, after this lockout, if the Mets sign Chris Bryant, I'm going to buy his jersey like the next day. Just that I'm getting a custom made. I go to the MLB shop in New York City, just like I bought this Lindor jersey the day after the Mets traded for him. I bought the Lindor jersey. I'm going to buy a Chris Bryant jersey. I love Chris Bryant. If you guys don't know that, then you haven't been paying attention. But I definitely like Chris Bryant. So, but wait, see what happens, right? Showalter is a Magic experience. No more rookie matches. Thank God for that. Yeah, he's gonna have a lot more power. That's basically obvious. Again, I don't think Buck Showalter is the guy who's just gonna go on his gut every time. He's gonna use the analytics, the numbers, and all that. But he has 100% control of what he needs to do. Sorry again for the Wi-Fi lacking hotel. You know the deal. I already said it. So sorry about the lagging, but it's almost 6 o'clock, so you guys get enough of me. So yeah, this is not Rojas who was basically looking at the numbers and doing it. Callaway, the same thing. It's a guy that knows what he's doing. He's going to control the clubhouse. He's going to be a leader, and the players are going to respect him. And the players might have liked Rojas, but I don't know if they respected his decision making, so to speak. Just like Callaway, the same thing. And at least I think when the players feel like Showalter is, positioning them defensively over here, or doing a double switch, or pinch hitting, or putting in a bullpen guy, the confidence is going to be different. When Buck Showalter says, "Hey, I'm bringing in Diaz because I trust him," that brings confidence to Diaz, right? When Rojas says, "Hey, Diaz, you're coming in," there's doubt in the mind. Like, does this guy know what he's doing? At least, is Schultz is going to show the confidence in his players. And I think that's going to be brought out onto the field. Mentally, I think it's more of a problem mentally with these guys than physically. I think they're all very, very good. I think Diaz, he has one of the best arm, the best stuff in all of baseball in the bullpen. But his mind is his biggest problem. We see it all the time. Every Met fan knows. You can tell what Diaz is going to be, what type of outing he's going to have, by the first 2 pitches that he throws to the first batter in the night in the inning, right? 2 balls that are not even close to the strike zone. We're going to have problems. You're probably going to have to warm somebody up. It's just that simple. So, again, it's just a matter of Buck Showalter is going to show confidence in his guys. And I think that's going to bring out the confidence in the players. When your manager is confident in you, the players are going to have more confidence, which mentally is going to help them. And I think that's what's going to help a lot. A lot of potential. Do we have another big splash in store when this lockout ends? Hell yeah. I think the Mets are going to make one more big signing, and I don't know if that's going to be Rodon or Chris Bryant, but I think they're going to make one of those moves. And if it's Rodon, I think they're probably going to make a trade for a third baseman. So I think there's going to be one big move and 2 middle of the pack type of move. No, Diaz, I think, still has 2 more years left on the contract. So I think we're okay with him. Yeah, we are facing the manager this year. We're facing the AL West. Again, 3 games. Again, I'm not worried about it. Until Kalenic faces us in the World Series, I'm not that worried about it. Would I have done the trade? No. For Diaz and Cano. No. But, again, the deal's done. We can't change it. You just have to look at it as who would have been the Mets closer over the last couple of years? Would it have been Lugo? So, it kind of worked out because the Mets really didn't have a closer. So, everybody can have their own opinion about Diaz. He scares the hell out of me every time he comes into the game. And La Potencia, yes, he turned into Armando Benitez just like every other closer. But at least Armando Benitez was good during the season. He was just he was trash in the postseason. He'll have his blow-ups, but he was a good regular season closer. The only new Mets news is this: Keith Hernandez number will be retired. His number 17 will be retired on July 9th against the Marlins. It's Saturday. I believe it's a 1 o'clock game, if I'm not mistaken. So get your tickets now. But yeah, Keith Hernandez, July 9th, Saturday against the Marlins. His number is going to be retired with all the other retired Mets. Not many, but enough. So that's basically all the news at the moment. The other Major League Baseball news is that the owners are bringing a proposal to the players tomorrow, and negotiations are apparently going to start tomorrow. So let's hope we get some good news out of that. Maybe it's progress, maybe it's not. We'll find out by probably end of day tomorrow of what's going on. So that's basically all the news, unfortunately. Let's see about the other. Let's see. Mets versus Mariners is going to be a great series. Yep. Stony, how you doing? Hope you all guys are good. Unfortunately, guys, it's almost 6 o'clock, and that's when I call it a quit. But I'll keep it around for a little while longer. A few more minutes, and then I'll call it a night, guys. But let's see. Any other fun little things we can talk about? If you haven't checked out my video that I did yesterday about Clayton Kershaw, um, again, it's not any type of news or opinions you probably had too. I think in the last live stream somebody brought up Kershaw. So when somebody brought it up, they was like, "Oh, let me think of something. Let me talk about his stats. Let's talk about his 2022 projections, and let's talk contract, right?" So check out that video if you haven't yet. But the only thing I think is the Mets looking at Kershaw, if they strike out on Carlos Rodon or another big time pitcher, that would be an option, like a plan C if other things don't work out. If plan A and B don't work out, I think that's when you can try to pivot to a guy like Kershaw, because let's be honest, if he can give you a 3.2, 3.5 ERA as your number three, I think it's worthwhile. I think he only pitched in 22 games last year. He's going to get injured. His back is a mess. But the key is to keep him somewhat healthy during the year. And in the video, check it out. But what I said in the video is if Scherzer, DeGrom, and say Kershaw all pitch 23 to 25 games and they're, for the most part, healthy, I think the Mets could still have a good year, make the playoffs, and just keep these guys healthy for the playoffs. So that's what I was thinking when it comes to Kershaw as a plan C option. So at least that would be another option that the Mets could have. And I put up a contract. You can check out the video. I don't think it's going to be it's going to be a short-term deal, obviously. But I do think it's an option if the Mets strike out on Rodon and other trade options. Castillo, Bieber. You can go on and on about the trades, but that's what I would be thinking about that. Oh, let me just give you guys an update on what's going to happen with the channel over the coming month or so. You guys know if spring training actually starts on time, I am going down there for the first game of spring training, first home game for spring training on the 27th of February at First Data Field. I believe that's what it's still called. Obviously, Hayden is already down there in Florida, living the nice warm life while I'm freezing in New York. We are gonna probably do collabs the whole time I'm there together. We might be together at one point. Sometimes we might be apart, but we're gonna do a couple of collabs. I'm gonna work with Hayden to see if we can do something in the parking lot of First Data Field. Maybe set up a little camera and do a live stream prior to a spring training game, and we'll have some fun doing that. But we'll talk about it later on. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to also think about other ways that I can do live actions live streams during pre-games, post-games, and all that fun stuff. And hopefully that would be fun for all you guys as well. So it's a couple of good things that I'm going to be doing differently than I did last season. The games I go to, I'm going to try to move to do something different with live streams. I'm going to do my best to do pre and post game live streams, which I did a couple of times, but again, it's hard. You guys know I work overnight, so it's kind of after the game, I'm basically going to work. So there's going to be a lot of pre-game live streams. Hopefully I can do post-game live streams, which is always fun as well. So, Christian, I'd like to move to Florida at some point, but, work keeps me here at the moment. Oh, Stoney, that was you, right? Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. You know what? It's funny because I got so many messages over the last 10 minutes. With the channel now, I'm starting to get everybody following me, and messages are insane. But I'll definitely check it out. All right, guys. So it's a little past 6. I will definitely do another video probably tomorrow or Friday, most likely. Another one of my either potential trades or free agent signings. I'm gonna do a little bit of research and see what I can bring up for you guys for my next video. I will see you guys next Tuesday, hopefully 5 p.m. for another Mets Hot Stove. So, guys, once again, I really do appreciate the hour that we spent. We had some fun, actually really, really good conversations today. It was a lot more than I expected, with a lot of stuff not really happening with the lockout. But again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in tonight, guys. I will see you next Tuesday or Wednesday at 5 p.m. Hopefully Tuesday. You guys already know. I really appreciate all the support, guys. I will see you guys next week. Check out the video that I posted about Kershaw, and check out the other videos that, if you haven't seen them, Top 10 Prospects with Joe DeMeo, SNY Writer. Check him out, the video that I did. So once again, guys, really appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys next week. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. Have a good night, everybody. LFGM.